Hello and welcome. It is the second day of March 2019, although the date for this really isn't important. And let's talk about the law of numbers, variance, and sample size. For if you were to bet on coin flips and get even odds on it, I bet you 1 unit to win one. Really, nobody has an edge. And in Super Bowl, you can see props where you can, lay 105 to win 100 on either heads or tails. But how about getting plus 125 odds on a coin flip? Which means for every 1 unit you risk, you get back 1.25. You can't lose long term. I'm going to show you that, especially with the law of numbers and sample size, and how extreme it can get on one side or another if you think you have a large sample size. So therefore, the math on the gain, it's going to work out this way. It's going to be on like trading cryptos. If a market goes up 25%, that means your portfolio, which is worth 1 unit, would be worth about 1.25. And the equivalency if that number is worth one less or one. But for that equivalency, 1/5 of it, or 0.25 is that number, is how much you would sell. So if a market goes from, say, 100, for a 25% gain, it would go to 125 on a price, and 100 Satoshi to 125. If it goes back to 100, well, that's losing 25 on 120 on 125. That's using 25. So 12 and a half is 10%, 25 is 20. 25% up is the same equivalency to 20% down. But your portfolio, which would be reset to 1 unit, would be worth 0.8. So you would technically need to buy 20 or 0.2 units. Let's take a look at a spreadsheet that I made. In here we have open price. I manually put in 8,000 and then I just divided it by 100,000. The value of your portfolio, which in this case starts with 0, your buy, and I manually put in 12,500 playing with a 1/4% rake. Then a sell price and how much it would be worth. I then have end own, which is how much you would own. And in these cases, I take what did I have before, add what I bought, subtract what I sold. Then a coin flip. Now in this, my spreadsheet formula is equals if A1 with dollar signs equals right here. It equals AF A1, so it's always going to look at that number. We'll get to that in a second, how that works. If it's greater than 0, then I want a random number between 1 and 2. Simple. It's a coin flip. It's either 1 or a 2. So 1 represents, one of the cards, or one of the numbers represents going up, 1 represents going down. This is just an average. I did the average here because I realized if it was 1.5, then it was right on, but 1.49, 1.51 can make tremendous results to where the market is going to end up. So therefore, in here, the price, it's asking if it's going to ask if the coin, if it's a valid one, but it's either going to say is it up or down. So if it's a 1, the random number, I want you to increase this number by 1.25. But if it's a 2, I want you to increase it by 0.8. And that's that. Just keep on doing it. And then in here, we got portfolio value, which is always going to be like 1.2492. I mean, that's because of the rake you have to pay why it's like that. But it's always going to have those numbers because of the fact that you are playing for that 25% and so on and so forth. At least it pretty much should always have it. Yep, for the most part. And that's why you're always getting the edge on it. And I have the amount of rows on here. I have 1,000, and a little over 1,000. So that's a lot. That's a very good sample size. On the top, here is the number greater than 1, so this changes everything. So this random number shows that 109 Bitcoin was spent in this time, 128 received. You're profiting 20. The closing price of something that was 8,000 was 59. Oh, really? So it goes down that much and you're still winning. It was at 1.74 thousand. So this is how sick these numbers get. When you give them a lot of not caring about price memory, it's just a coin flip. It's either going to go up 1.25 or down 20%. So randomly over a million situations, it's 50-50 if it's going to go higher or lower. So let's just change some numbers in here, and we're going to, I mean, look at the number here. And this is why I talk about the big variance in the mathematics. This one had a high of 1.1 trillion. It closed at 707 billion, and you end up gaining like well over 41 Bitcoin on this. It had a low of 6,400. You're going to see the complete opposite at times too. In this case, we had a normal close at 19.5. It got up to 227, down as low as 37. Here is one that got as low as 22 cents on this. Got as high as 38, closed at 19. And you're going to notice the BTC spend and receive is always going to be about the same. And the 130s for the receive and about 100 on the spend every single time. Closing, and the more it goes up, the better it is. The worse going down, not as good it is, which is interesting I say it that way because the numbers did. I just really can't lose on these 1,000, at least using this mathematical formula. Closing price 51, there's a really big one here. This is a spot where it closed where it was as low as 1. 284 this gets up to. This is one that closes at 1.66. So here's one where you spent 110, received 127. It was as low as 14 cents. Going 8, that's like going down like what? 8,000 times 7, like 50,000 times its value. Okay. And this one closes at 181. This one closes at 12.5. This one closes at a quarter million, 225. But they're always the same. If you look at the numbers up top, this one closed at 24. This one closed at 4 million. This was at 7 cents, pretty much zero. This is what I was looking for. Now I can move on to my next section. And you're still profiting. 112 buy. 124. Now, how could it be zero? Well, let's just try to find where these low prices happen to be. You can see it's scrolling down to 37 there. We're on row 500, so we're halfway through. There's where it's pennies, but where does it go to zero? It's down at $2, dollar. I mean, the random numbers are just doing its thing. Okay, here we are. So 00. Right here, this is basically nothing because it's rounded. Anything that's there, anything under 005, anything that goes 004 or less, no matter what the numbers are, that's when it would be 0. And then as it goes towards the end, we can see it makes it back up to 1. Again, this doesn't have price memory of what happened before. In the stock market, in the crypto market, it does. So the next thing I did is I grabbed a coin that has gotten its ass kicked since it started. Okay. And we're going to see using the exact same thing here how it's going to go. Now, not every trade is going to work out that it's going to be at 25% gain and 20% loss. Because there's going to be times where, say it's at 100 units, and I have a sell order in for 125. Well, what happens if I had that and I log in that day, I get the notification sell order fill, and then I see the price is 188. Well, now I'm going to be selling, I'm supposed to sell at like 150 something, so I'm going to take that 188 and sell for better than 0.25. That's really how it works. And a few times that this ends up happening with this coin. So therefore, I got data. This is name coin, and these prices here are all the same, so I'm like, yeah, I don't want to trade. I want to give it some time. So here we are looking at the end of 2013. It's December of that year. So I figure right in here, end of the year 2013, let's start. Now in this bold, this represented when the 25% play came in, and this would have been a sell, this would have been a buy, sell, buy. And I'm just going to push the page down. There's a buy here, nothing for these days, nothing here, nothing here, There's a buy there, sell there at the top, no, sell at the bottom, buy on the middle, 338 in that area. Another buy on the next one. Nothing for these days. Nothing for these days. Two buys and then a sell. Whole bunch here, including buying and selling on the same day, twice. Here are two sells and a buy. And how does that work out? Get 357.1 twice. Well, that's because it got to that high at 357, but my sell was lower, and the next day it would have hit. Okay, I didn't mean to do that because I was trying to push page down. Now let's push it. Nothing for those ones. A buy at the very bottom. Nothing here. Sell somewhat near the end at 321. Then a buy here. And each one of these represents like 18. I think there's 18 rows. It goes from 404 to 422. It's like 19, I think, something like that. So we're talking about a week. This is like 2.5 weeks, 2 3/4 of a week. When you do what I do each page down. So there's like over a month of not a trade. Now, month and a change. There's a buy there at the 175. Now, bottom here, 130. Following with a sell and a buy. Nothing here. Nothing here. Two sells on the right. Two sells and a buy. Then we got another buy. Nothing here. We got a buy and a sell. Nothing here. A buy. Nothing. Another buy. And I'm just going to go through it because and then here we go, like three in a row, nothing. And we got some trades there. So oftentimes, I mean, it almost thinks if I hardly do anything, is it even that profitable? And the answer is yes. We got two trades here, and then, but overall the price is declining. It was in 6 digits, now it's in 5. It's going to be headed to 4. But there are trades here and there. There's a buy there, and a few trades there. Over 100,000. So there's those and here's that situation there. It goes from 37,000 then to 100. So there's a spot where you can, if you look at the numbers here, this is the spot where this is the close, this is the high, this is the low. So when you were done that day, you would have hit your sell order somewhere. It was lower than 37.6. That just happens to be where the high was. I bolded it just to, because I did it manually to determine where the numbers were. And okay, so now the next day you would have put your sell order in, like say you're selling at 35 or 36. Well, that would be like 50, 54 or something, and then you find it. Oh, I'm selling at 68. Uh, you can just get an amazing extra plays. I'll show you that at the bottom, but it's always good in these markets when you get those quick, sharp up and down. Like if you get a V shape or a reverse V shape, and you sell and buy back, or you buy and sell it back, either or. But moving on, let's just see how the market moves. And there's a big pump on the market. There's 4 bolds on the sell from going from 68,000 to 181, and now you're buying it back up to 100 and 100 again, 130. So you're getting the sell orders in. But now it's down to 67. A bunch of trades here. That's always nice to have. Down to 35, down to 20, down to 15. But we're getting a few sells. It's going to go to 4 digits. We're on March of 2018, so not much to go. But it's pretty much at its bottom now. 19 all-time lows, that is. The question is, are we up or down from making the trades like this? Well, I'll show the data. There's a break of 10,000 on August of what would have been last year. Then no trades into October, and there we have it going to 10 on October 21st. But a lot of numbers in the 4 digits, as we can see. Nice little rally into December, getting a bunch of sells. And what's nice about this game is the quick buybacks. You can see in here that there would have been a sell. Now, why would I have 2 13s? Well, the answer is probably selling like 10,200 and then selling around there. That would have been the only way that makes sense. And then the buyback, and then you sell again, and that's just always magnificent to have happen. So now we're January of this year. Not much left. There's a sell, another sell, and a buyback. Two buys and a sell, and that's where we stand today. So what I use when doing this manually is this here. So I'd put the number in. This would tell me, okay, I'm selling at 16153, always rounding up and always rounding down. So this, if there's a decimal and something on there that's not zero, then I'd round it up. And then the same thing here, rounding it down, 10337. So therefore, let's take a look at the results here. I made a spreadsheet, or I made more of a data based on the buys and sells. So let's scroll down to that. Why does it do that? Okay. So here's what I did. This is the price in Satoshi, and then again I'm going to divide that in here. We're working to start it to be worth 1, so you'd start off by buying 139.34 when the price was 715,900, costing 1 Bitcoin. And then the ownership is how much you had plus the buys minus the sales. So in first one is just equal this. And in this one here, I want this number plus this number, subtract that number, and then just paste that all the way down. These ones in here is going to use if statements. Then the if statement is if the price goes higher, it's a sell. So I want you to take this number here and subtract it by 1. And on a spot where it's a buy, within the if statement, did this number go lower? If it did, I want you to take 1 and subtract whatever this number happens to be. So it's supposed to be like a hair below 0.8 or a hair below 1.25, as we can see in here. But there's spots in here, 1.47, 1.57. That was when the market was up higher to the point where, okay, I want to sell this particular level, but it's more base and a decent amount of basis points higher. So this is fantastic. Instead of selling 25 or 1/5 of what I own, in here I'm going to sell 57.8 of 150, or basically, yeah, I want to sell 578 units of it to bring this down to 1. So, and as you can see here, by doing such, on here, I would be selling 245 and change, almost 246. And that's basically how it does. Here's a spot where it was 0.65 because there's a better deal in the buy end. There was a few of them that came up. Overall, you notice that a lot of times you're going to work with the same prices back and forth. Buy 21645 and 27057, same number, because when you keep on multiplying 1.25 and then multiplying that back by 0.8, you always repeat back at the same numbers within the mathematics. Of course, whenever you get a spot where you had the great play because it was better than you were getting a better deal, then that changed the numbers, obviously. Overall, I was very wow about the results. The open price was 715,900 Satoshi, and its last trade price was 16,153. If I divide those two numbers, which would be your net decline, against Bitcoin, it has lost almost 44 and 1/3 of its value at the price point of 16,153. Now it's down to 15,000. So how would these trades have worked out? A profit? Obviously, we've seen when you got your ass kicked before with the random number generator that you still go out ahead if you can get a large enough sample size to play. But in this case, the BTC spent was 17 and a quarter, and it was about 16 and a quarter that you got back, which means you've actually put in 1.019 Bitcoin into it. And that's an ironically interesting number at this price point when you last traded, because that would have meant, well, what's your portfolio worth of the altcoin? And after every trade, it's always, in this case, worth 1 unit. So you would technically be down on last trade, point oh, like basically 0.02. He's even. You net even. It sucks that you're not ahead, and at times when the market was higher, you were. As during this last run here, when it's 39.4, you were ahead for sure. But your sample size of trades, well, let's just figure this out. This is row 2087, and I can just get a count of how many trades, because we did 1,000 in the random number generator. That was a decent sized sample. If we get a count on this one, and I'm not going to count the intro buy, that is 141. So it's an okay size, but it's enough where a horrendous market has still managed that you don't lose too much. For if we do something like this, I think this, well, let's just do it this way. I want to figure out how many buys there were, how many sells there were. So what I'm going to do here is go if this number is greater than this number, then I want a 1. And technically speaking, if it isn't, if this number is equal to 0, then I want a 1. And I don't like seeing that false on there, so I'm going to give it a change and go give it a 0 if it's not the case. So the sum of k should be higher than the sum of j. Yep, it's all working now. Okay, this would have been, don't need these ones here. Nor do I want this one. Okay, so we got all the sums here, or all the ones that will represent if it's up or down. We'll get a sum here. So furthermore, if you're playing this game, how it works out is, if you're putting 1 unit, you have to put in, for your risk, you have to put 5 units up to play the game. Because you're going to spend 0.2 when you lose your coin flip or when the market goes down. So you originally have to invest 5 units. And you're going to win back 1.25 units every time you get a coin flip right. That's one way of looking at it. So there we can see this is a spot where you would have won 61 coin flips and lost 80 of them. So that is, well, I know this isn't random numbers, but if it was, and it most certainly can, you can have 141 coin flips and the winning one of either heads or tails will have 80. That's going to happen. It could even get to 90. Mathematically, even 100 is really far-fetched, but you do millions and millions and trillions and quadrillions and Google's amounts of simulations, especially Google's. Google, not the search engine, Google, I don't know, G-O-O-G-O-L, I think it is. That is a number with 1 plus 100 zeros on it. So it's a pretty large number. And if you did that many simulations, what the highest amount it would be at 141, you know what, let's just do something like that for fun. Let me bring up a programming language. And we'll use small basic for the loop, we'll call it, is equal to 1 to 141. And we'll just get, say, ABC is equal to math get random number of 2. Okay, so before this, we're just going to do heads equals 0, tails equals 0. If ABC is equal to 1, then heads is equal to heads plus 1. Else tails is equal to tails plus 1. And then we'll end if it. So now we're going to get a count. Okay, so what I want to do is after and 4. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, if heads is greater help if I got my keyboard is it's actually I got to get a light on. Where's the greater than sign? And it's 5:40 p.m. as I'm doing this, and this is normal every day. I don't have my lights on, and the sun's going down, so it's dark. And it's interesting. Every single day like this, you know, so, oh my God, this time, and it's getting later each day with the sunrise, that you just notice how dark it gets after you have the sun directly lighting your entire, well, where you're living at. So if heads is greater than tails, then what I want to do is say, we'll say max number is equal to heads because that was the biggest. Else max number equals tails. And if. Okay, so now we've done one loop and we're going to get that max number on there. So what we're going to do in here is do total max. Total max equals 0 to start. And I'm going to do an N4 here because now it's done this entire loop. And now what I want to do is another loop. For big loop equals 1 to, let's start off with like 100, see how well it works, then just do a sick number after that. Okay, so then after this is done, what I want to know is if max number is greater than total max, then total max equals max number, and then that's all I need there for that if statement. And I can even N4 it. So all I have to do is go text window, let's clear it. And text window, right, and we're looking for total max. And that says mex, it looks like to me. And I know I'd get what used to be called a syntax error. Variable not stated. And I'm going to need a so the number always has to be over 70. Let's see if I did this without a mistake. I'm going to push the run button, and I did make a mistake. N4. Unexpected at this spot. I got 3 N4s. I should only have 2. Okay, so this one here ends that. Okay, that's normal. And then we have this N4. Let's take this one, I think. And it comes up with the number 88. So 88 was the largest out of 141. And what I want to do, just because I can do this, I'm just going to text window.write line I should be doing, which is 141 subtract total max. So I can get what the lowest is. And I'm going to change this to a right line here. That just makes it so it will break a line number. So now if I run it, we can see it was 85 to 56. Well, now let's do a larger sample number. Let's do 1,000 of them. And it didn't take long. 93. Let's put another 0 in for 10K. And now we can see 93. Like 93 wins for one and 48 for the other. Let's put another 0 in. Okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7, 8, 9, 10. It takes some time. About 13 seconds. Hasn't come up yet. 15 or so seconds. 97. And when I was doing major operations, I had to do a lot of numbers in blackjack. I was at the point where I had this thing running for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I was doing a lot larger numbers than this. So then, why don't I just do this, put another 0 in, and it's going to be a couple minutes. So I'm just going to pause the tape. And the results came up. 99 was the maximum, almost 100. Or better than 2/3 of the time. This is a million. And in each of the million, there was 141 flips. So this is 141 coin flips. So each lot of a million had 141. And within those million lots, the highest of that one was 99. And it pretty much always will be that high. And I do find it fascinating when you talk about large sample sizes and you're trying to calculate just big streaks, where when I go back to the spreadsheet and I see how these finishing values come up, where it goes to a million on this and down to 15. This one goes to like 6 million. This one was at 9. I mean, these numbers are just phenomenal. Like low price of 2.6, and this is starting with 8,000 again. This one closed at 5,000, which is lower than where it started, but hey, it got up to 2.5 million at one point. And it did fall to 550, so it fell 12 times, 13 times. I do find it relatively fascinating. And if I were to do this, say, under, like, say, a million different rows, then, I mean, I could do it, I'm not going to. But anyway, I'm over. This is, again, the reason I'm doing this is 2 reasons. One, because this could be done on a mechanism of trading. Like, say, the Doji coin. I'm going to probably do this exactly like the Doji coin. Although I'm probably not going to do 25%. I'm going to probably do, like, say, 15%. So if I'm buying at a 15% gain, that means, so 100 would go to a 115. So therefore, if I do equals 15 divided by 115, I'd be looking to play for a 13% decline or a 15% rise. Or because I bought at 52, I would be putting a sell order in at about 60. And then if I buy back, I'll buy back at 52. And at 60, if I sell that, I'm going to go 50%. So 6 plus 3 is 9. That'd be 69. And if I sell 69, I'll buy back at 60. That's how I'm going to be doing the Doji coin. And I'm not going to get plus 125 odds, but I'll get a little less than that. But I'll still get a good, I think, plus 115 or something. But that's how I'm going to be playing that. Another reason why I'm doing this is for people that like spreadsheets and just the law of numbers. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.